You're listening to eLearnChat, where talk is knowledge.
Hello and welcome to eLearnChat, our new podcast featuring prominent leaders, shakers and movers in the e-learning and training industry. Your co-hosts are Rick Zanotti and Terrence Wing.
Hi everyone, I'm Rick Zanotti, and you're watching eLearnChat, episode number 26. For all of those watching right now, thanks for watching, and if you're in the chat room, thanks for being here live. This show is sponsored by Liquid Learn at www.liquidlearn.com and by Relate Corporation at www.relate.com. And joining us today, as always, is our... Let's see. Not sure if you can hear this, but here is Terrence Wing.
Hi, everybody. I can hear you perfectly, Rick. It's just, I guess I'm hearing out of my right ear and not out of my left ear today. So, unlike for those of you that tuned in last week, we were having a similar technical issue where I was hearing Rick, but I wasn't hearing our guest. And unfortunately, I guess we're still having that issue. So I'll do my best to keep up with the conversation. But I am actually seeing and hearing the responses from our guest at the same time you are, which is on a delay, a slight delay. So hopefully it won't be too bad. So bear with me. If you see me laughing at a joke that nobody else is getting, it's because I heard the feed a little bit later than the live feed. So just bear with me.
And do you hear the music when I play it?
I did not hear the music.
Okay.
I am sorry. But I guess I can do the introduction because right
good.
now I'm still talking. So we have exciting guest today. We have Dave Elchoness, and forgive me if I mispronounce your name, Dave, but he is the CEO of Tagwhat. That's Tagwhat. And you can visit that site at tagwhat.com. And it's an augmented reality site, which really has some interesting things going on with it. I don't want to steal your thunder, Dave, so I'm going to pass the mic off to you and let you tell us a little bit about Tagwhat and some of the exciting things that you guys are doing over there.
Sure, thank you. I'm delighted to be here. We launched the site about a year ago, and in its current incarnation, it's an online to mobile augmented reality platform where you can tap any spot in the world and place a location-based digital tag at that location for people to see when they're at that spot. So, for example, you can tap on the online map. You can attach a message, attach an image, even integrate Flickr images, and place those things at any spot on the globe for people who are following you to see at that spot. So it's basically kind of sort of like a location-based mobile Twitter analog with augmented reality components. So augmented reality meaning the ability to display the web or digital information on a live camera view of the mobile device, and that's Tagwhat today. I mean, what we did was we launched this platform as sort of an experiment to see exactly how people would be using location-based computing. After all, adding location to the mobile experience in the computer, that is your mobile phone, is very new, and we haven't quite figured out, I think, as a society, how to use location in the mobile phone and how to take advantage of this new functionality. And what Tagwhat sought to do was to offer a solution, and that is this communication methodology using the mobile and location as a medium, and we integrated a whole lot of different services like Foursquare and Wikipedia and things like that, so that people could have a really rich experience in the application. We added an online component so that you can enjoy this new medium online as well as in the mobile. And we've got some really great and very interesting learning from this. And now we're working on our next stage of our evolution, and it promises to be really quite interesting.
Now, what were some of the things that you discovered as you launched the product and people started using it?
You know, I think that what we learned, the most basic thing we learned, was that we're still figuring out as a society how to use location in the mobile device. I think that, and that is location as a feature in the mobile device. Foursquare offers a very simple tool, which basically allows the user to say, "I'm here," and attach a tip to that "I'm here" message. But it's very, very simple because there's not a ton else in terms of the dynamic than this "I'm here." And what we found was that a lot of people use Tagwhat in quite the same way. They would tag their location, or they would tag their office, or they would tag their mom's house, and they would say, "Hey, I'm here," or "My mom lives here." And what it taught us was that we hadn't yet solved this issue. I mean, what do we use location for? Do we use it for coupons? Do we use it for finding friends? Or is there really more to the story of location that will evolve as we become, as a society, a little bit more mature in terms of how we use that feature? We learned that about 5 to 7%, roughly, of the folks on the system have creative ideas for how to use location, and that the rest are kind of into the mode of, "I'm here." And we had realtors, we had some educators, we had a lot of travelers, we had some casual users, some folks in museums and other places like that using the system to tag location with various types of media. And I would call those to be the pretty intriguing uses. Eventually, those could be verticals for a business in the location space. But I think primarily people were sort of unsure of how to use a location-rich platform.
So, as far as what they're doing with Tagwhat, I can think of some kind of cool things. Like you said, realty was one of them. Also, even virtual tours. As you go from place to place and set up your markers of where you've been, other people could actually retrace your footsteps and kind of have a fun experience in a city. City tours, I could see as really being interesting that way, where people are looking for monuments, they're looking for all sorts of different tourist sites, if you will. This would be a really cool way to get that going for those people who like to do the walking tours or things like that. Have you had any experience with people doing things like that?
Oh yeah, a lot of travel related uses, like city tours, like public art tours. Realty was perhaps the biggest, and so there were a lot of phenomenal uses for the technology, and we intentionally created a very broad platform so that you could use it for any number of different exercises. Even learning exercises, scavenger hunts, and of course each of the Tagwhat tags could link to an existing website or some other URL, so that nothing would be lost. You would just be gaining, in terms of existing web assets, you would just be gaining this location element as well, which is kind of nice, because a lot of folks in the city tours, or in these other industries that we've worked in, feel like, here's another thing they have to do. Well, in fact, it's not another thing they have to do, because they can integrate their existing stuff into this new location paradigm, which may be one of the most exciting things about the new location web or augmented reality. We're not really creating these sort of new things necessarily. We're taking existing rich content and we're placing it into this location context. So we're giving it new life and new impact in the location context.
Now, can you support video at this point, or is that something for the future?
That's a good question.
The existing Tagwhat site, which is going to be, and I'll essentially announce it, which is going to be changed dramatically very soon, did not support video except through URL. So you could put a URL, say, to a YouTube video in a tag, and that the application on the mobile would recognize that and launch it as a YouTube video. So to that extent, yes, but it was by linking, hyperlinking to YouTube. Our new approach is extremely friendly to video, and in fact relies heavily on video in a way that Tagwhat didn't. I would say that the existing Tagwhat supports text, obviously, and images to a very large extent, including integration with Flickr. But the new platform is very supportive of what I think is really the strength of the newer mobile devices, which is video. I mean, watching a video on some of the newer mobile devices is fantastic, and to me, it's that rich video that we ought to be using to augment our surroundings primarily.
That sounds real interesting. Terrence, any comments in the chat room?
Well, I'm actually having problems with that too, but I do have a question myself for Dave. We had met, well, not met, but we had connected via Twitter when I was using Tagwhat during a instructor-led training course on it was actually the ISD 2.0 workshop. And during that workshop, we were conducting orientations. Not orientations. We were conducting sort of an icebreaker to get to know each other. And I used the Tagwhat to help people to identify tags in their life that were critical to them or important to them that they wanted to share with the group, like perhaps the hospital they were born in, or some place where they proposed to their wife or something like that. And it was a great way to kind of break the ice using the technology. Something that one of the participants brought up was the question of, can they use Tagwhat to create or enhance an employee orientation program? And I didn't see any reason why not. I thought it was a brilliant opportunity to use Tagwhat. But I'm wondering if you have, across your experience, seen a company that has used Tagwhat to help augment or facilitate a new employee orientation.
I'm familiar with uses like the one that you made, Terrence, where you're in a training and you're using it as an icebreaker or as a fun way of sharing information among individuals or trainees who might not know each other, people who, say, are attendees at a conference. So offering location-based content in and around a conference setting or a resort setting. So that's definitely something that I've heard. I think the employee orientation is really quite analogous. You can imagine two different uses of a location-based technology like Tagwhat. One is what you described, offering your own personal places and maybe writing a story about that place and putting it at that place, and then sharing it with your colleagues at the training. The other way would be perhaps in the orientation context, employment or otherwise, where the trainer would put content in and around that location for people to learn more about their surroundings in an interesting way, in a fun way. And it might be it might be something, sort of the long term might be something like a training on a particular set of machinery. I mean, there's some fantastic augmented reality projects, and even you can see some on the web videos where the person is wearing a set of goggles, holding up the device, and they can actually be trained on how to fix a set of machinery. I think BMW may have put out a video like that, where they're looking at they're looking at essentially an augmented, color-coded way of fixing the machine. But you can imagine on sort of that on a micro level to say a massive corporate campus where you've got people training, and this is where the marketing function is. This is where the administrative function is, or this is where the CEO gave his speech about competitiveness back in 2009, along with a video showing the CEO giving that speech at that spot in 2009. So they're essentially walking back in time as part of their orientation, so that the trainer, that is the company in that case, could actually construct the narrative for the trainee using a series of multimedia videos, text snippets, images, things like that, so that as they're moving about the campus, they can actually have the environment interpreted for them the way that the company wants them to see the place.
That could really be interesting in training too, like you said, because you could not only just in a campus, but in any kind of maybe manufacturing or distribution environment, you're trying to teach people, especially in large plants, where things are, how to use things, or how to locate things. That's pretty cool, especially that if you could tie it in where people can be kind of warned when they're close to what they need to get to, or even notify them. That's actually pretty neat. So that's where the augmented reality really comes in, doesn't it?
Well, when I'll go back in time a little bit and tell you how we got started. I spent a number of years studying and speaking on virtual worlds, and specifically Second Life. I know, tons of e-learning professionals and educators from my Second Life days, and what I always thought as I was working in Second Life was that this concept of presence that we talk about, that when you're in these virtual environments, you feel like you're with other people, and in a way, the online virtual environment is sort of the flip side of what we're talking about here. In the virtual environment online, you seek to add some reality or enhance reality with enhance the virtual environment with some degree of reality, with avatars, with used to be typing chat, now it's voice. So you try to bring these tools into the virtual environment to make it more real. Here, what we're really doing is we've got this real environment, and we're adding virtual elements or digital elements to it to enhance the real environment. So it's sort of two sides of the same coin. And so when augmented reality became possible on the mobile device, I was extremely excited. And this was summer. It was actually this time 2 years ago. And it became possible in the early Android devices, and I was immediately struck by the fact that you could now take this virtual or digital or informative or entertainment context and put it in our real lives. So we started playing with one of the existing platforms, the new platforms at the time, and then what we got involved with was using, because the GPS can be somewhat inaccurate in the device, using RFID tags in a corporate environment to make the AR more precise. So, and this is sort of exactly what you're talking about in the manufacturing area. You basically, all these machines, say, in a manufacturing environment, have these little tags on them. And they can be RFID or RTLS, which is an active RFID. And, you know, there's, generally speaking, in nowadays, somebody sitting in an office somewhere with a computer. And the computer has like a blueprint of the space on it. And you can see on this blueprint where the tags are in the environment, these physical radio frequency tags. And, you know, I'm on the shop floor and I want to know where something is. I call the guy up and I say, hey, you know, where is the such and such? And he says, all right, it's on the second floor, sort of in the corner, and you've got to go this way and around that, and there it is. And our thought was, well, what if you could, you know, draw on those existing RFID tags and direct them right into the mobile, so that instead of calling the guy up to tell you where to go, you could just raise your device up and sort of pan across the environment and see and filter using, you know, commands on the phone, just find the thing very easily and cut that extra step out. It'd be much more dynamic. People would get a better return on their RFID investment for sure. So that's actually how we started off. And what we learned was that was a fantastic future use of augmented reality. I'm fully convinced that that's how people will be using it with RFID and other similar radio frequency technologies. But there are a ton of other things you can do with it too, which is what led us to a broad platform like Tagwhat. So you can imagine not only people putting in little notes to their friends in a location-based context, but people you know, tagging their workplace, a manufacturing facility, military base, corporate campus, town, city, resort, with these little location tags in order to, you know, guide people around and help them find things, and ultimately to orient them to the place and to learn the story of the place, which I think is a very compelling use for location-based technologies.
Now, from a security point of view, can you also limit what people see, or is it pretty much wide open at this point?
No, you can totally limit. You can totally limit what people can see. Okay. It's just like, you know, it's just like setting up, you know, different permissions in a database. Okay, it's really quite the same.
So yeah, then I could really see some serious applications, like you said, for military or other things, where if you have the security, and that could be very interesting.
We had a great demo in a military context once, where the soldiers had these tags on them, and they were going through a mock Afghan village with these tags, and you could see them. You could track them on the screen, of course, with little red dots moving across the screen. But you could also do it at the time when we did the demo on the mobile device. So you've got these trainers in a military training environment with these laptops around their necks, and they're watching the soldier go through on the laptop, and you know, they've got they're holding it around their necks, and it gets heavy and it's burdensome and it's cumbersome, and we were able to sort of introduce the mobile phone to it, so that it was really as simple as holding up the device and seeing, you know, essentially the same content through the live camera view. And I think that's why you see, for example, stories as recently as a week ago where the military is actively working with iPhone and Android devices, because really they're extremely powerful computers, and they will be used in the field for these purposes and others.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Terrence, how's it going in the chat room? You're not seeing the chat room.
No, I am now. I've figured out that issue. There was a question earlier from Larry, and I think we might have answered, or Dave might have answered it, but just in case, I'm going to go ahead and ask the question anyway. And Larry's asking, what suggestions do you have for an educator who is limited to a small geographic area, sometimes even as small as a single room? So how would Larry in that situation be able to use Tagwhat?
I think that, in its current iteration, the system is usable just the same way you used it, Terrence. Individuals using the online map to put, say, stories about those places, in the context of their own life, for sharing with other students. That's an easy way to do it. The notion behind the web version of Tagwhat was to offer this opportunity for people sitting in a room to be able to view the entire world of tags on their screen, and to be able to input a tag anywhere in the world from their particular location. But there are a lot of other augmented reality products that you can use in a single room. I mean, I'm sure that many folks in your audience are familiar with QR codes. Being able to scan a QR code, those aren't, they're physically location-based, but they don't rely on, things like GPS and other elements. And so that's one. There are a variety of interesting sort of AR type things that are related to, but not necessarily QR codes. Different. Hold the camera up and get an augmented experience. And we're going to be launching very soon something that I think will be interesting in this context as well. But I think that one of the challenges of folks in a single room up till now has been that most augmented reality has relied on GPS and compass, and that's not really the best use case. Single room is not really the best use case for that. I think that the other technology that you guys are going to really want to keep an eye on is the technology that allows the phone as a computer to evaluate and analyze the video stream and offer a sort of a video feedback to the user based on just viewing an item or a thing. But I think that technology is actually quite a bit off, because you've got to take into account all sorts of things like the angle at which you're pointing the device and processing power and things like that. So
that's all about pattern recognition,
that's the
right?
Visual recognition technology that you see at Google goggles kind of stuff, which is incredibly cool, and it's coming, and it's probably coming fast, but it's not. I don't believe it's quite there yet.
No, do you think the iPhones, for example, the phones on the whole, are fast enough to do pattern recognition that quickly?
I mean, if you download Google Goggles, and there are a number of other applications now that do this, they're pretty good. Sometimes what you have to do is take a picture of the thing and wait a bit, and then you get a result back, what the thing is, or whether there's a coupon associated with the thing. It's slow, it's somewhat imprecise, but people are making strides in that direction. I think it's definitely going to improve and enhance the sort of location-based augmented reality that we're all, I think, a bit more familiar with right now.
Right. Hey, I used to joke that when you get to the pattern recognition kind of devices, you show it a book, and about a half hour later it tells you that's a book. and things like that. So for that kind of application, yeah, it's kind of ridiculous. But what you're saying is real interesting because you can identify locations, areas that may have been tagged earlier that someone could be looking for, part of training, part of whatever, a simulation, a real-life simulation with some virtual components added to it. That's actually pretty exciting. I could see some real benefits to that. Do tags expire?
On the current system, tags do not expire. Although you can imagine that an interesting use of tags where you would essentially enable a time lapse of content at a particular spot. So although they don't expire, they're all sort of there on the server. You can imagine a functionality where if you swiped your finger across the application, you would see different content from different time periods.
Right.
Where I left a note in September and you left a note in January, and I might see that as I swipe across. There are so many things you can do now that we've got this 3D grid over the world that is chock full of the web, all elements of the web. There's so many ways you can slice and dice the web at any given space, any given place. The opportunity here is pretty remarkable, and I think we're in the sort of the very early stages of figuring out how to deliver the web to the user in a place-based context or a thing-based context, and then once we figure out how to do it, what do we deliver, right? So earlier on I was talking about these tags where the person would basically say I'm here and I'm here, and that's one kind of content that you could deliver to somebody on a place-based content. But certainly, I'm here is not the be-all and end-all of location-based computing. So we need to sort of get to the sweet spot of location-based technology. And that's where I think we're heading.
That sounds good. Now, how do you monetize this? Or can you monetize it?
Sure, you can. You absolutely can. And I think that business is going to explode. Well, there are a couple answers here. So, as a corporate training tool, you can imagine monetizing it in a way, in a way similar to other online learning training tools. So that's one way to monetize it. Another way to monetize it, I think, takes into account the incredible degree of precision in terms of who is getting the information and where they're getting it. So, for example, I'm walking down the street. I'm walking down Pearl Street in Boulder, Colorado. I'm known to be a male, age 39 years old, and I'm interested in kid stuff because I've got a couple of kids. Well, you can deliver to me some sort of contextual content, be it an advertisement, be it a teaser for a movie, be it TV show content, be it anything. All that stuff is monetizable, and you can direct it to me based on who I am and where I am and what my interests are, and that becomes a very, I think, valuable advertising medium for people. So that's definitely another way that you can monetize it. Third way to monetize it, I think, is not unlike cable television. So think about owning your own global grid. Now, not everybody needs their own cable TV channel. Not everyone needs their own global grid, but some people do. Some people want to. They want to program content across the world at various spots. They want to own the Eiffel Tower. They want to own Times Square. They want to own the corner of Pearl Street and 10th in Boulder, Colorado, and we can sell or license that global grid to them, exclusively to them, and we can replicate that global grid an infinite number of times, just like Comcast can add more channels to my
Sure.
whatever cable box, and that's another way to monetize it. I think that there are tons and tons of ways to monetize it, and I think we're just beginning to think about all those different ways. But boy, I love thinking about it. I think it's just the coolest thing ever, and I hope that that people get that from me when I talk about it.
Yeah, no, this is great because I wasn't really familiar with what you did before that, but I'm definitely going to be checking it out, and I find it exciting, actually.
Sure. Let me tell you a little bit about where we're headed with it. I mean, if you're interested in sort of a future peak, we actually, the learning that we got from the Tagwhat 1 experience was that the sweet spot, in our view, the most exciting place, in our view, for location-based augmented reality had to do with the telling of multimedia location-based stories. So what does that mean? That means videos, it means audio, it means images, it means all of the rich content of the web curated into multimedia stories, fun, compelling stories that we could place at the locations where those stories would be most impactful. And so what we did was we hired a number of folks, photojournalists, and we're creating that location-based content. We're a media company creating location-based multimedia content at places. There's great stories at places. And we will, in the future, open that platform to others so that they can tell similar great location-based stories at places and enjoy that content in context where they happen to be. So, for example, think about cable TV. I'll keep getting back to that example because I think it's applicable. Think of a location-based movie channel where you can see around you a clip of the iconic movie that was filmed where you are. Or think about a food channel where you can walk by a restaurant and see an interview with a chef talking about his inspiration for the restaurant as you walk by. Or think about a sports channel where you can walk by a spot and see a collage of images that show the awards ceremony for the athletes at that particular spot 50 years ago. And that's where we're headed with this. And I can definitely see how folks in the e-learning space could benefit from this kind of approach. Great stories telling great stories at places.
Yeah, no, definitely. My imagination's starting to kind of take off with the idea. Terrence,
Rick,
any comments in the chat room?
Well, actually, I have a question for Dave about oftentimes when I have conversations with somebody about Tagwhat, the first thing that comes to their mind is, so it's like Foursquare. And I don't think they could be further from the truth. I think your Tagwhat and Foursquare are two totally separate tools. And I'm wondering, how you deal with that statement. I think it could be so much more powerful hearing your explanation or the differentiation between the two tools versus mine.
Foursquare is a great tool, and it's really captured the imagination of a lot of folks in the location space. If you look at and Tagwhat, we integrated Foursquare, because that content is valuable to people, and knowing where the Foursquare check-in locations are, and knowing what people have, which people have checked into those places. So it's a valuable tool, and that's why we put it in. In fact, very, very early on, 2 years ago, before anybody knew what Foursquare was, I gave those guys a call and I had a great talk with them. And, they were very interested in, becoming part of this augmented reality, sort of emerging augmented reality, concept. At that time, nobody had used it, but we were sort of getting close to being able to use it. And the difference is I think is quite stark. I mean, in the old, in the existing Tagwhat, you can, it's freewheeling. You can put anything you want anywhere in the world, whether you're at that spot checking into it or not. So, what I used to tell people is I can put, a tag with my photo and text and so forth in Red Square in Moscow, and people in Moscow can walk by and see it and experience it, and that's really quite different than the Foursquare experience, which is basically, I'm here, and maybe a tip about that place, and typically it's it's related to a merchant or a service. Ours is much more freewheeling. It was basically, here's this global canvas and do whatever you want with it. Add content wherever you want, whatever you want, images, all this kind of stuff. And we were doing that, a year ago, and so it really is quite different. And this new approach we're talking about, it's even more different because we really are going to multimedia stories at the place. We're not talking about I'm here. We're talking about, which is more or less what Foursquare's done. We're talking about really compelling, entertaining, educational content that's most impactful to the place, at the place, being delivered to you at that place. And that is, it's really quite a bit different. It's different in a ton of ways, Terrence. And I get the questions sometimes, but once people see what we've done with Tagwhat in terms of this sort of global, open, freewheeling canvas, they get it, and they say, "Well, you mean I can put a tag in China, and they're going to see it in 30 seconds or less?" Mm-hmm. And the answer is yes. That's different than the check-in experience.
That's great. He's still getting your answer.
As he finished with the statement, I think I got the gist of it too. And I guess my follow-up to that is a lot of if this is adapted at the enterprise level, there's no doubt that the bean counters are going to say, well, how do I measure engagement? How do I measure ROI? So what would you respond to? What would your response be to that, Dave? Of measuring engagement and measuring ROI.
Yeah, that's sort of the lingering question related to all social media efforts, right? It's from Twitter to Facebook to, why do I have a Facebook page to, why do I have to spend, time and money on this? And I think that increasingly what we'll find is this is simply the way, people interact with companies, with brands, and eventually and very soon within enterprises as well. It's hard to put, I think, a return on investment figure. It's hard to establish a figure for any of these new types of media, but increasingly we'll be able to do that. The new platform is really about storytelling and sharing compelling content. And some of the return on investment metrics that are applicable to existing media like television and radio, I think, will apply to an extent here. But again, the ability to reach an individual at a particular spot with a particular interest or at a particular activity. So being able to catch the guy with, a really cool Budweiser advertisement as they're about to walk into the bowling alley, I think is fairly compelling. So the return on that investment will be more evident as we're able to pinpoint a little bit more reliably, a little bit more effectively with interesting content, and we're not sort of trying to muddle through tweet streams and so forth. Not that's bad. I'm a huge fan. Don't get me wrong, but I think those efforts will become more apparent over time, and probably not in the not too distant future.
That sounds great. Well, we are near the end of our show. Dave, this was actually really fascinating.
Definitely.
We're going to go back and try to figure out what we can do to make it more exciting, more interesting, more interactive. And like you said, augmenting reality just adds that much more to it. So, again, thank you so much for being here. Anybody in the chat room have any last-minute questions?
No, I think Dave answered all the questions. We had a few new people that popped in there. Dr. Do, I don't think I've ever seen him in here before, so welcome, Dr. Do, to the chat room.
Well, sounds great. Well, everybody, thank you so much for being here. Dave, again, thanks a lot for taking time out of your day to share with us. Definitely appreciate it. And Terrence, we will see you, though you may not hear us, next time.
Absolutely. Thanks so much, Dave. It was a pleasure to finally meet you and not have to just exchange emails and tweets with you.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks, everyone, and we'll see you guys next week. Take care.